In the last few days, the situation between the United States and Venezuela has taken a dramatic turn, and it's happening far faster than most Americans realize. A senior US official openly stated that the United States is about to go into Venezuela for the American oil companies. That sentence alone has sparked intense debate. It's unusual to hear such blunt language about possible military involvement, especially at a moment when public support for any new conflict is extremely low. A new CBS YouGov poll released this week shows that 70% of Americans oppose military action in Venezuela. Only 30% support it. Even more striking is that only 24% of Americans believe the administration has clearly explained why the United States would consider any sort of intervention. 75% say they have not received a clear explanation at all. That includes Democrats, Independents, and even a large portion of Republicans. Across the political spectrum, people are confused. They don't understand what the mission is supposed to be, what threat Venezuela poses, or why this issue has suddenly escalated. For months, the public has heard shifting explanations. Sometimes the justification is drug trafficking. Other times it's corruption. Other times it's the suffering of the Venezuelan people. But none of these explanations have been consistent, and some of them don't match the available data. Analysts point out that the amount of drugs coming from Venezuela into the United States is extremely small compared to the larger routes in Mexico, Central America, or the Caribbean. Even if the US completely shut down drug trafficking from Venezuela, it would barely make a dent in America's drug problem. This is why many experts across both political parties have questioned whether drugs are really the main issue here. And then, this week, something unusual happened. A member of Congress went on live television and said the quiet part out loud.
At the same time, a lot of Americans don't want actual U.S. participation in regime change in Venezuela. They would much prefer the Venezuelans to do it on their own. Do you think the pressure that Maduro has received will force him to leave on his own?
Oh, I think Maduro is not Fidel Castro. Maduro is not a brave boy. So now that he has understood that he is on that very nefarious list of the terrorist organization, that the airspace above Venezuela has been closed off and the commercial airlines from the United States are not flying, he's understanding that we're about to go in. He understands that he has been our enemy for the last 25 years. Venezuela, for those Americans who do not understand why he needs to go in, basically for three reasons. You're in Fox business. Venezuela, for the American oil companies, will be a field day because it will be more than $1 trillion in economic activity. American companies can go in and fix all the oil pipe, the whole oil rigs, and everything that has to do with the Venezuelan petroleum companies, or everything that has to do with oil and the derivatives.
That kind of statement is extremely rare. Usually, economic motives are never mentioned publicly because they're politically sensitive. But in this case, the comment was made outright, and it has fueled speculation about what the true motivations may be. At the same time, the United States took a major legal step. It officially designated the Cartel of the Suns, a network used to describe corrupt officials and military figures around President Nicolas Maduro, as a foreign terrorist organization. This designation is significant. It gives the US government wide legal authority to target individuals inside the Maduro regime. It opens the door to both military and covert operations, and it reframes the Venezuelan government not as a hostile state but as a terrorist organization. Critics say this is an attempt to bypass Congress by labeling the government as something that can be attacked without a formal declaration of war.
So starting at midnight tonight, Nicolas Maduro and his gang is officially officially a terrorist organization, and he is the head of a terrorist organization. It's according to our United States law, puts in the right in the fact here is he can take him out, we can extradite him, and he can go in and try to finish his regime. So good news for the Venezuelans who have been waiting for years to be liberated, and very good news for the American economy, because I'll explain to you why this is a #1 goal for this administration from the economic standpoint.
Senator Rand Paul has been one of the loudest voices pushing back. He argues that if the United States is truly heading toward military conflict, then Congress must vote on it. He warns that redefining foreign governments as terrorists is a dangerous shortcut that could be abused. According to him, if the administration wants to use military force, it needs to make the case openly and legally. Meanwhile, on the ground, several developments suggest that the situation is moving toward a new phase. Airspace over Venezuela has been closed. US commercial flights have been halted. American military assets have been repositioned in the Caribbean. And according to a detailed report from Reuters, 4 US officials say that the United States is preparing to launch a new phase of operations related to Venezuela. Although the exact timing and details are not confirmed, 2 of those officials told Reuters that covert operations would likely be the first step. 2 others said that options on the table include an attempt to remove Maduro from power.
I want to ask you, because of your position on Homeland Security, you may have some insight into the drug cartels. You are also on Senate Foreign Relations, and it is tomorrow that the Trump administration officially will designate the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization, not the cartel the Trump administration says is linked to Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Secretary Hicks says it gives the administration me tools. Nothing's on or off the table, he says militarily. Legally, what changes tomorrow? What becomes possible?
I think by doing this, pretending as if we are at war, they're pretending as if they've gotten some imprimatur to do what they want. Well, you have the rules of engagement on left hand. So, for example, we normally don't shoot boats that we suspect of being drug dealers. In fact, if the Coast Guard tomorrow started shooting all vessels that are off of Miami or off of San Diego, about 1 in 4 of the vessels that they normally board doesn't have drugs. So it actually would be unlawful as the Coast Guard started blowing up boats. But for some reason, they say, oh, we're at war off the coast of Venezuela. And so it's a different rule of engagement. It's one of war. But, Senator Kane and I brought this up. And he said, if it's war, let's declare it as war. Anyway, that in this discussion, is it war or not? And the administration refused that. They want to have it both ways. They want to say, oh, we say these people are terrorists or narco-terrorists, so we can blow them up. But it's extraordinary that when some of them survive, they pluck them out of the water. They don't prosecute them for drugs. They don't collect drugs. They don't tell us if they were armed or not. They just send them back to their country, most of the time not being Venezuela. They've sent one back to Colombia and one back to Ecuador, but nobody's making any pretense of even interviewing them to find out who's selling you the drugs. Maybe we could find out who the kingpins are if they're involved with the drug trade. Not a word. And I've been given zero, not one briefing, because I'm skeptical of what they're doing. They don't brief me or the General Senate at all. A few hand-selected people may have gotten a briefing, but I have not been invited to any briefings on Venezuela.